Hunt for the Fallen Star, Chapter 10. First Jump. The Fallen Star leaped vertically into hypersonic flight. Casey's body pressed back into his seat. His vision narrowed. Lightheadedness and nausea threatened to black out his senses. Then a warm energy pulsed through his body, heightening his senses and awareness. The tunnel vision vanished, and he felt the familiar thrill of flight. Through the floor view screens, the jungle greens became a sliver between ocean blues. The once high feathery clouds were now below, the ship's speed barely disturbing their suspended water vapor. Casey watched with awe, while the earth shrank below them and its curvature became more apparent. The blue sky quickly faded to a black, dominated by the late morning sun, and the view screens dimmed to filter the brightness. Away from the sun, stars became visible, first as small specks, and then the Milky Way stretched out through the vastness of space. Beyond the Earth's horizon, the moon appeared suspended in blackness. Above the center console, the fallen star image mimicked the actual flight in vivid 3D. While the ship image maintained a center position, the Earth receded below to become a blue-green dome. A deep exhale escaped James's lung. We're not in the jungle anymore. Whoa, that was an unexpected rush, said Layla. Shouldn't we have blacked out, said Heather. I felt like I was going to, then it just stopped. Wait, her voice rose in excitement. What in the world? Casey turned towards Heather and realized he felt light. Something bumped his arm, and he saw his backpack floating nearby. He let go of the controls, and his body gently lifted from the chair. Looking around, the others were already floating above their seats, awkwardly navigating weightlessness. Heather drifted over the aisle, her nervousness replaced by a giddy smile. She pushed off Casey's headrest and coasted back through the room. Weightlessness is way better than I ever imagined. I thought scuba diving would be similar, but it's definitely not the same. James smiled at Heather's comment while he struggled to figure out the motions of being weightless. He fought to right himself while he noticed a blinking green glyph floating nearby. Wonder what that's for. Casey was struggling and failing to seat himself again. Touch it. I can't hog all the fun pressing the buttons, but, he cautioned as his brother reached toward the alien character, maybe we should all get in our seats first, in case we rocket back to Earth. The warning came too late. A brief wave of nausea returned when the artificial gravity yanked their previously weightless bodies to the floor. Casey and James landed clumsily in their seat. Layla sprawled onto the aisle. Heather had just kicked off the back wall and ended up diving into the floor. James! A warning before turning on gravity would be nice. Then she started to laugh. Layla was rubbing her back. I didn't think it was funny. Not you, Heather pointed to the floor. With the respite from gravity, I didn't notice the view. The others took in the sight, and Layla smiled. That's a view I never tire of. Through the wall view screens, the blackness of space was speckled with stars. Below them, through the floor, the full Earth. Wisps of white clouds intermixed with blues, greens, and beiges dominated the view. Casey motioned to the walls. Look outside. Heather pushed herself up from the floor. Where are we? Inside an alien spaceship orbiting Earth, replied James. Maybe I should turn the gravity back off so we can feel like we're still in space. Heather's eyes were humorless. Very funny. I can see the continental landmass. I mean, where are we going? And do we have the fuel to get home? That would be a question for the captain, reflected James. Casey shrugged and turned his focus forward. Since falling back into his seat, he had not touched the controls on the armrests. The 3D images of the solar system still floated across the forward console in an ever-increasing detail, even while maintaining the minuscule and relative size of the planets. A thin blue line glowed just below the solar system display. A small replica of the fallen star, enveloped by a blue-tinged purple halo, still hovered over the center console. While the Earth image shrank, increasing numbers of colored dots orbited the planet. Most had turned green. Others were amber-colored. A small number took a few seconds before changing from red to green. As new red or white dots crested the horizon, most would become green. A small image of the moon appeared to the left of the center console. Casey felt the others quietly waiting and realized they expected him to have an answer. His cheeks warmed and he fidgeted in his chair. He pretended to study the dots floating above the Earth. My guess is these little dots are satellites or other objects in orbit. The green are probably the safe ones. Maybe the others are space junk or unknown. Heather walked a few steps to stand next to Casey. So where are we going, Captain? Casey swallowed a growing lump. His dry throat made the action difficult. He felt cornered, exposed as a fraud. His head dropped slightly. I don't know, but the Earth is right there, so it shouldn't be too hard to get home. What do you think the blue line is for? Heather asked, pointing at the image floating over the front console. With the motion, the image changed. The solar system was swallowed by millions of minuscule specks of light that exploded across the entire forward console and formed the shape of a spiral galaxy. While the galaxy expanded over the main console, the image of the ship above the shrinking Earth retreated into a smaller form and floated over the end of the center console. The blue line morphed into red. Careful, warned Casey, smiling. She's a bit touchy. She? The fallen star. James stood and stared at the galaxy hovering over the center console. Is that what I think it is? Layla walked to the center console. It does look like our galaxy, but what's the bright green spot over there? She indicated a speck of green on the far right side of the galaxy. Casey tilted his head. No idea. There's nothing else marked. Maybe it's Earth? Or he thought for a moment, maybe it's where the ship came from? Without any other markings or an English map legend, it's hard to know where we are and if that's Earth or not. Heather stepped in front of Casey and studied the galactic image with fascination. Did you know in Maya mythology, the Milky Way is described as a great white serpent? For the Peruvian Inca, it was a heavenly river. Old Chinese, Northern Siberian, Korean, and Japanese myths also describe it as a great river or a celestial stream. Interesting how many ancient cultures regarded the Milky Way as a roadway that was built by gods to link our world to theirs, or to link their world to ours. She turned her head, and her right hand tucked some brown hair behind the ear. Her left hand rested on her hip as her eyes narrowed at Casey. Do you really think this ship came from across the galaxy? Well, Casey tried to hide a grin. I'm pretty certain it wasn't made in China. James took a half step forward. The green spot was closest to him, and his hand reached out to touch the ethereal speck. The entire image instantly changed and zoomed in to a 7-planet star system. In front of Casey, on a moon of the 4th planet, the green hue blinked. That's certainly not Earth. How far away do you think it is? James inquired. Heather turned toward James. The galaxy is estimated to be about 100,000 light years across, with our solar system about 28,000 from the center. There are an estimated 200 billion stars in the galaxy. I didn't see exactly where we are on the galaxy map, but if Casey's right and that green dot is on the other side of the galaxy from us, it could be 70,000 light years away or more. 70,000 light years, exclaimed James. That's definitely not a Sunday afternoon drive. He stared at Heather at his right hand as his right hand scratched the back of his neck. I wonder how it got to Earth and how long it took. Kind of strange, mused Casey, that it had come to our planet out of who knows how many billions of planets in our galaxy. Heather reached across the console and touched the green light. The image zoomed into a small green and brown moon orbiting a swirling dark red planet. Several alien characters floated nearby. Layla squinted at the moon image curiously. Do you think that's really where the ship is from? Since none of us can read the language, not even Heather, Casey teased, who knows? Give me some time, Heather retorted, and she leaned closer to the image. I'd say that it being the ship's home planet or home moon is the best guess, said Casey. Heather touched the red bar, and the galaxy image returned. Curiously, she swiped the blue line towards the center console. The alien planetary system reappeared over the center console. She changed the image to a close-up of the green-brown moon. A string of green characters appeared underneath the planet. "Hey, I've got green lights again," announced Casey. The control on Casey's armrests were outlined with green. He sat back in the chair and gently rested his hands on the small domes. The coolness instantly warmed, and the green light pulsed in concentric circles centering under his thumb. "Any idea what they mean?" asked James. "No," replied Casey with a mild shrug, "but it probably means things are ready to go. I think I've got the basics of flying this ship." "I hope the basics don't end up taking us to the moon," said Heather, her voice half teasing but edged with caution as she eyed Earth's moon through the wall's view screens. The heavenly body suspended in the blackness of space. Several green characters floated above the console in front of Casey. "I'm fairly certain the ship's ready to go," said Casey. "Everyone buckle or sit tight and hope we get back to Earth." Layla's head tilted. "What do you mean by hope?" "It means I hope by pressing the lights that are now lit under my thumbs that the propulsion system will work and I can take us back to Earth. I can steer it, but I don't know how to power things on or off, including whatever engines this ship uses." "I'm not sure about this," said Heather as she sat behind Casey. Layla took a seat across from her. Casey half smiled. "I'm not either, but unless you want to float around in space while we try figuring things out and hope our oxygen doesn't run out, this may be our best option to get home. What do you think, James?" "We're still alive, at least. I don't think I'm dead yet." "I say go for it." "Okay," relented Heather. "I don't have any better ideas. I suppose the worst thing is we land on the moon at some alien rendezvous base." "Do you think there's a base on the moon?" asked Layla. Heather smiled. "Don't worry. After hundreds of years on Earth, and who knows how many traveling through space, I doubt anyone is still waiting for the ship to come back." Layla gripped the armrests of her chair. "Well, let's do it. I'm curious what kind of power the ship runs on, but I'm more concerned about its energy source or whatever running out before we get back." A knot formed in Casey's stomach. "Okay, hold on to your seats or something." An uncomfortable feeling nagged at Casey. It wasn't a bad feeling, which is why he did not mention it. His stomach growled with hunger and his mouth felt dry. He tilted his wrist to see his watch. 11:23 a.m. Before he could talk himself out of it, he pressed in gently with his thumbs while he watched the 3D images floating over the console. The galaxy view still stretched across the forward console, the alien green-brown moon hovering over the center. A smaller image of the fallen star remained hovering at a lower point, over the end of the console. At that moment, Casey realized what was bothering him. Brilliant white streams of plasma erupted from the 4 claw-like extrusions from around the disk at the front of the ship. Their front view screens darkened with brightness. The streams ripped and tore into space in front of the ship and converged at a single distant point. The collector glowed purple, and a single arc of white plasma burst out to join the other 4. Around the convergence point, the black background space and stars distorted, like the lights of oncoming traffic through a rain-drenched windshield. The front of the ship appeared to stretch into the distortion, and the side view screens of the moon and stars blurred, stretched out behind the ship as streaks of light, and instantly disappeared. Reds, blues, whites, and other colors streaked and melded together as they rotated one direction around the ship and then spiraled into another. Ahead of the fallen star, the ribbons of plasma continued to weave and cut a distortion path through space. Casey felt as if he were in a dream where he needed to run fast, but his legs and body refused to move. His head felt paralyzed, transfixed in place. His hands were cool now, different than the normal warmth the controls exuded, although light still pulsed through the silver domes. With great effort, he turned his head, enough to see James to his right and Layla behind him. They were like living statues, frozen in time and place. The seats had partially absorbed their occupants, holding them perfectly in place without a harness or seatbelt. In the galaxy display above the console, a purple dot moved quickly from the left towards the green spot on the right. The movement was not linear, but snaked in and around stars, maneuvering slightly one direction and then another. A new image appeared. Unlike the others, this one completely surrounded Casey. The light rings around the controller domes changed the purple. Stars, clusters, and nebula appeared before him and passed just as quickly over and around him. He felt as if he were the ship traveling through the stars, a feeling that was exhilarating and unnerving. The star fields washed around Casey, and the rotating colors of light continued their twisting and spiraling around the ship. It reminded him of speeding down a water slide, except when he realized he felt no effects of acceleration or turns. It felt like the controls were coaching and guiding his hands in their movement. A soft white hue pulsated gently through the center of the purple rings. Casey felt like the ship was simultaneously giving and taking energy from him. He felt elated and free, even more than he did when flying a helicopter or a plane. Another distortion appeared in front of the ship. It was like looking through an old, sagging window pane. A red, swirling planet filled the distorted space window. In the center, a small black spot appeared. The distortion moved quickly towards the ship, and the 3D display surrounding Casey disappeared. When it looked like the ship would break through the space glass, the fallen star instantly decelerated. Casey felt blood drain from his head and pressure build up throughout his body. At the same time, there was a counteracting energy force. The distortion field dissolved into clarity, and the plasma streams immediately stopped. Stars in the view screen solidified into points of light. Casey felt his hands release the dome, and he blacked out. End of chapter.